Hello, hello, hello. This is Chris Ferdinandi from GoMakeThings.com. Today, we're going to be building an HTML web component that converts a collection of headings and content into an accordion group. If we jump over to the code for just a second, you can see I've got some headings and some content that goes with them. These could have like paragraphs or something in them, but for simplicity's sake, we just have a div with some raw text in it, and I've wrapped the whole thing in an accordion group custom element. And so for today's video, we're going to take this custom element and convert it into an actual functional web component where this actually gets converted into something like this, where you can expand and collapse. If you wanted to, you could maybe make them exclusive so that opening one closes the other, as you sometimes often see in accordion elements. So we're going to build that today. This is, I just hit save out of habit. This is part of our, or part of my collection of web components over in my membership area. But we're going to be building it from scratch today. So we're going to try to mimic what I did there without trying to look at it or copying it directly. So we'll build it from scratch. For reference today, we are going to be using the ARIA authoring practices guide, which has a whole collection of patterns and accessibility recommendations around them. And one of them is specifically around accordion groups. So we're going to be leaning on that for what our behavior should be or should look like to guide some of our design decisions here. And we're also going to use the web component boilerplate that I have over in my membership area as a starting point. It doesn't do much. It just includes the kind of defining of your component and some useful stuff to kind of help you get started. So I'm just going to copy paste this and go, but we'll be building this whole thing from scratch. I did also just want to point out ahead of time, I apologize in advance that my hair looks like a tennis ball that got run over by a lawnmower. I am in desperate need of a haircut, but I've been putting it off, and so I'm gonna look a little ridiculous for today's video, but we'll roll with it. This video and others like it are made possible thanks to the generous support of my Go Make Things members. A recurring membership helps me create more videos like this and also get you some cool perks. Join or learn more at gomakethings.com/join. All right, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and just grab this whole boilerplate. We're just going to copy paste it in. You can see over in the HTML, and I'm going to include all of the source code from today down in the description, so you can grab it and follow along, or you can look at the whole thing when we're done. It's up to you. But we're going to have a CSS file and a JavaScript file, and then all of the HTML we're just going to keep in the index file. But over in our JavaScript file, I will drop in my define library, and we're going to call this one accordion group. So we're extending the HTML element. We've got our constructor. We always run the super method. And then after that, we're not going to inject HTML this way, so we can get rid of that. We are going to listen for click events, but we're going to listen on the entire thing. And we don't need any of this. We are going to use handle event. For this one, we don't, in a proper library where this might be used in ways that we don't know, doing some of the setup in connected callback is probably the more resilient approach. But for the purposes of our today's video, I'm just going to keep it all in the constructor. It's not a huge deal. So we don't need any of that stuff. We'll get rid of all of it. Okay, cool. So let me comment this out for a second. So for right now, we're just listening for clicks and we're logging them. So that's all we've got going on here. Let's jump over and reload. And if I click, you can see it's tracking the element that I'm clicking. So that's a good start. So what we want to do, the very first thing we want to do, we want to get all of the headings that, okay, let me actually take a step back. Let's jump over to the accordion pattern and see what we need to do here. So there's there's two important aspects of building an accordion. So the first is you want to have the thing that toggles it, and then you have the content that it's associated with. The toggling, if we look at the keyboard interactions, should happen whenever the enter or space key is pressed. Tabbing should move from one focusable element to the next. That's just kind of the normal way that that browsers would behave if you didn't touch them, so we're not going to mess with that. Shift and tab move to the previous one. That is normal. And then you've got some arrow key controls that are optional. So we're gonna skip those for today in the name of simplicity, and we're gonna focus on this piece. So the tabbing should be automatically covered by how the browser behaves, but enter and space key driven behaviors. Typically, that means we either need to attach a bunch of like event listeners to keyboard events, which I don't want to do, or we wrap the whole thing in a button, which will give us these behaviors for free out of the box with the click event listener. So you get like a 3-for-1. The other thing you'll notice here is under role states and properties, the title of each accordion should have a role of button. So we're going to need that anyways. We might as well just use a real button and style it to not look like one. The accordion header button is wrapped in an element with a role of heading and has an appropriate level. So we don't actually need an ARIA level on this, because if we're using real headings, they automatically get a heading level by default. We've got the ARIA expanded attribute that defines whether it's expanded or not. We also have an ARIA controls attribute. This used to be optional. It looks like it's now recommended or required. So we're going to make sure that we add that as well. And so what this does is it associates the heading with some content. So we will look at how to do that as well. Cool. So this is kind of the baseline. I'm going to make sure I include a link to this down in the description as well, and I'll probably drop it somewhere up there. But the ARIA authoring practices guide is awesome. It is not 100%. But it is a really good way if you ever have like a more complex component you're looking to build and you want to get a sense for what the expectations around it are. They have a ton of really useful stuff in here, and they've worked really hard to make this more human readable, because it used to be very much written for accessibility wonks and robots, and now it's written a lot more human digestible. So this is usually my starting point for interactive patterns like this. Cool. So we have some stuff to do. We want to convert this into a button. We need to add ARIA controls, which means these need to have an ID. So we have some work to do here. So I think the very first thing we need to know is which heading level we are using for our accordion toggles, because you could have headings nested inside the content, and you maybe don't necessarily want those to be toggles as well. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to add an attribute, headings equals, and for our case, it's just going to be H2, but you could have like mixed headings in here, I suppose, theoretically, that would have, also be selectors. So you could make this comma separated and it should still work. Over in our JavaScript, what we're going to do is we're going to say this, this headings equals this query selector all, and we are going to use this get attribute headings. So we're going to get that headings attribute, pass it into query selector all, search just within our web component. In web components, this does double duty. It refers to the class and any properties on it, and it also refers to the HTML element on which this class is instantiated. So you can use it like an element and search inside it. You can also use it like a class property and define properties on it. So we're going to grab all of our headings. And then if there's no headings, we're going to return. We're not going to do anything because this all kind of depends on there being headings. Let's say get headings. And then the other thing we probably want to do is for each heading, we want to add some ARIA controls and we also need to wrap the content in a button. So let's have a setup method that we run. And this will handle all of that for us. So set up the DOM, and then we'll go down here. We'll add a setup function. And so in here, we're going to say for let heading of headings. Nope, sorry, this headings. And so then we're gonna loop through and we're gonna modify each heading. So if we come over here, we've got our two headings. We know that's working the way it should. So for each heading, we want to we need to do a couple of things. So the first is we need to grab a or we need to make a button. So let's say let button equal document create element button. We want to set the button inner HTML to whatever is currently in our heading. So heading inner HTML. On the heading, we want to then wipe out its inner HTML. And finally, we want to heading append button. This is mad at me because I'm using let instead of const. I've got this new linter, and it's a lot more strict about that. All right, let's do that. So first up is create button. One other thing I want to do, when we do our click events, I want to be able to easily filter out, was this a thing that should trigger the behavior we want or not? So I'm going to add an attribute to the button as well. So button set attribute, and we'll say accordion trigger, like that. Cool. So if we jump over to the browser, now we've got a bunch of buttons. Now we don't want these to look like buttons. So we will have to style those at some point. I guess no time like the present, right? So accordion, it's accordion group, trigger, it's accordion trigger. And we want these to have padding 0, margin 0, border 0, font inherit. Let's see. Cool. Oh, background color, right? Background transparent. Let's keep these alphabetical. Okay. And we probably want the toggle on this to be the whole width. So let's go with, you know what else we'll do? We'll go display block. We shouldn't need width if we do display block, but let's just double check. Oh, that's right. One other thing with buttons, because they don't get it automatically. We'll go cursor, pointer. That way we actually know when we're over our. Okay, no, so it's even with display block, it's not going with 100%. So let's go ahead and fix that. And, oh, there we go. Text align. There's a new property for this. Hold on. MDN text align. I want to make sure I use the new modern. Yeah, so start. I'm so used to going left, but this is what we want. We want text align start. All right, cool. There we go. Much better. All right, so now it looks like the heading that it was before. It just happens to be a button, which is great because it means we can focus on it. And when we do, I'm hitting the enter key right now, or the space key. It also runs a click event. So that takes care of the keyboard interaction piece of this for us. Cool. So let's jump back over. So we've created our button. We need to handle the ARIA stuff. So let's add ARIA attributes. So the first one, so on the button set attribute. We're going to go ARIA expanded. And so this has a value of true if the content is expanded and false if it's not. So we're going to set a value of false as our starting value. because we're also going to hide all of the content by default. Yeah. So I guess the next piece of this is actually before we do that, we need to get the headings. So let's get the associated content, right? So get content. Now, there's a lot of ways to do this, but for our purposes and based on the way we have this set up, I would like to just grab the next sibling element and use that. So we're gonna enforce a pattern like this where the content has to be wrapped in some sort of element, and we just grab the next one, and that's the associated content. So over in our JavaScript, we're going to say const content equals heading next element sibling, and then for the content, we are going to we're going to do a couple of things actually. So let's we'll define an ID, and we're going to do a check. So if the element already has an ID, we're going to use that. Or actually, no, here, let's do this, right? So if no content ID, then we're going to define one. So content ID equals, we will go accordion group underscore, and I'm doing this the silly way here. Let's do that. And then there's a way to generate random IDs. Let's see, crypto. Okay, where is it? Here we go. Crypto UUID. This is the one we want. So it's going to generate a random string. So we will do it like that. So get content and define an ID if one is missing. Cool. So we're getting the element. If it doesn't have an ID, we're going to make one for it. And then we are going to button set attribute aria control. Is it control or controls? I always forget. Let's jump over here. Aria controls. Okay, set to the ID. Okay, aria controls content ID. All right, so this should, and then one other thing we also need to do with our content is hide it. So we'll go here, get the content and hide it. And then we'll make this a separate thing. So we'll go, here we go. Define an ID if one is missing. Content, set attribute, hidden. And so this is going to hide the content. We'll give it an ID. We'll add some aria to our button, and we should be in business. Awesome. So the other thing that's missing here is the ability to know if the button is expanded or collapsed. And so just looking at our HTML here for a second, we've got, here, let me actually make that a little bit easier to read. Okay. Aria expanded, Aria controls. We've got an ID on this. Should be unique. Random UUID generates a cryptographically unique and secure value. All right, cool. So then I guess the next thing we want to do, let's add some indicator that this is expanded or collapsed. So there's a couple of ways to do this. Like we could hard code something inside here, and then it'll get moved into the button, and we can conditionally show it or hide it. But for something like this, we already have all of the screen reader required indicators of state from our aria attributes. So I would probably use I think for this one, I would like to use CSS. So we will say accordion trigger aria expanded equals true. And then we'll do another one for false. And for both of these, we're going to go, I always forget, is it, hold on, MDN, CSS, after. I can't remember if it's, yep, it's with the doubles. Okay, so I always mess that up. I know it'll respect it either way, but I like to do the right one. So after, and then MDN content. All right, cool. Just want to make sure I get the setup on this right. So we are going to, so if it is expanded, we'll include a plus. And then if it's not expanded, we'll include a minus. So these are going to look really basic. Oh, we're not actually expanding anything yet. So hold on, we'll just test this like that. Okay, cool. So that works. We probably want this content over to the right. Let's see. So we'll go text align end. Is that the right one, or do I need to float this? Yeah, we need to use like a positioning of some kind. I am going to cheat. I'm going to go in here and see how I handled this in here. Oh, I didn't. I actually just kept it like right next to the element. Okay, we'll do that for now. Theoretically, like if you wanted this over, you could do like how would I do this? Like position absolute right 0, for example, like this. This should work. Yeah, right. But like we don't need that. So we'll get rid of that for now. And I actually think I have this reversed. So I think we want the plus to indicate it can be expanded, the minus to indicate it can be collapsed. Yeah, that makes more sense. Cool. All right, that should be it for the CSS. Let's actually make this behave. So we're setting it up. We're listening for clicks. Here's where the magic happens. So inside our event handler, we're going to say so let's get the button, right? So const button equals event target closest, and then we're looking for accordion trigger. This is an attribute, so we need to do it like that. And then if no button, return. So get the clicked trigger button. So the reason we do this, so event target in an event listener, event target is the thing that caused the event to fire. Closest is going to find the closest element, including the element itself, up the DOM tree that includes the selector you pass in. And the reason we use closest instead of just checking for the attribute on the event target itself is if you had some nested HTML inside this heading, an icon, something like that. Maybe you were using an SVG instead of just text here. The event target is going to be that nested element potentially, and not the parent button itself. And we want to make sure we're always getting the parent button. So we're going to use closest. If we don't have a button, if it was some other thing that was clicked, we will ignore it. Otherwise, it was a button. Otherwise, we'll do our script. And let's just double check that this is behaving the way we would hope. So it was a button. It was a button. Nothing happens if I click outside of it. All right, perfect. So next, we want to get the associated content. Now, we could get the parent heading and then go get its next content, but we now have the ARIA controls attribute whose ID matches the content that goes with that heading. So there's another way we can do this that I think I'm going to use here instead. So we're going to go constant content equals this query selector. So remember, this is going to, in the context of a web component, is the class and the element that it's attached to. So we're going to search inside the element, and we're going to look for the button get attribute ARIA controls element. This by itself does not have an ID on it. So we're going to do this boom, or does not have the hash. I'm sorry, that's what I'm trying to say. So we're going to do this. So this will give us an ID selector. And then just to make sure this is working, let's double check our work. I like to do this periodically. Cool. So it is getting the hidden element. Sweet. Okay, cool. So get the associated content. Let's get rid of our console log so we don't forget it there. And then show the content and update ARIA. So we're going to say content set attribute. How do we want to do this? So we will, okay, we're going to do two things first. So one, we're going to change the, let's actually change the button ARIA first. So we'll say button set attribute ARIA expanded. And how do we want to do this? So let's go, you know what? There's a GMT toggle attribute. There's a cool little thing you can do with toggle attribute. I might be thinking of toggle class. Hold on. Does this have, yeah, this has it too, force. So you can force it to be true with toggle attribute. So this is, so we're going to say toggle attribute ARIA expanded. And then what we're going to do is we're going to button get attribute ARIA expanded equals, we'll say true. Hold on. So let's do this. Let's say const. I'm going to set, this will be easier if I set a variable. So let's say is expanded equals, so button ARIA. So if it's currently false, we're going to expand it. So we'll do this. So the way this works is normally toggle attribute would just reverse whatever the value currently is. But what we're saying here is if it has a value of false, always set this value to true. Otherwise, set it to false. So we're kind of forcing the value there. And actually, I don't even need to do toggle attribute for that. Well, yes, I do, because we want this to be, I'm being stupid about this. Here we go. Button set attribute. If ARIA is expanded, false, otherwise true. No, other way around. If it's expanded, true, otherwise false. There we go. And the reason I'm doing this is because it could end up with like a value of 0 or 1. We don't want that. We want it to specifically be true or false. Why am I getting a warning here? Unnecessarily use of Boolean literals. Okay, then we'll make it a string if that'll get the linter to stop being mad. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm using a new linter. I have Biome running right now, and it gets a lot more angry about stuff than my previous linter. It's good. It makes the code better, but it's really annoying when making these videos. All right, so show the content and update the ARIA. So we've only done one of those things, right? So update ARIA, and then we're going to say show content. So we will, yeah, there was no need to do that. We can keep it all together. And then content, we are going to toggle attribute. That's why we didn't want to use it, because toggle attribute adds or removes the attribute. We don't want that. We want to keep the attribute and just change its value for ARIA expanded. But with hidden, we want to like remove it completely if the thing should be expanded. So toggle attribute not is expanded. Yeah, maybe I should change the language around this because that's going to get confusing. So we'll say is hidden. So if ARIA expanded equals true, we're going to want to hide it. So if is hidden, set to false, otherwise set to true. And then we can do a more strict, here we go. So if is hidden, add hidden, otherwise remove it. Okay, that logically makes a lot more sense. So now let's jump over here. Cool. Everything expands. We can collapse it. You can see the icons automatically change, which is cool. Love it. Great. So that's part one. That's like the functionality. It's done. It's great. The last thing we maybe want to do is add the ability to have an exclusive component. So here's the cool thing about web components is you can add multiple ones. So let's go ahead and add exclusive as an attribute. And then we will, we'll keep the same set of headings here. Maybe just to make this stand out a little bit, we'll do accordion group, and then we'll do padding 0.5 M background color. Let's make this really light, and we'll add a margin block end of 1.5 M. That did not work at all. Okay. Oh yeah, because by default, web components are treated as spans. So we need to treat it like a block. There we go. Cool. Awesome. Now we're in business. Let's go ahead and given all the headings and content here. So we'll go, 0.5, 1M, go like that. And just because I really want it to look pretty, we're going to go border radius 0.25 M. I like things in alphabetical order just because it makes them a bit easier to find later. Okay, cool. So we've got our little setup here. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. So you can see we've got our two separate groups. This one is flagged as exclusive. The first one is not. So we're going to make them behave differently. Define if exclusive accordion or not. So this exclusive equals this has attribute exclusive. So this is going to return a Boolean. If it has the attribute, it's true. If it doesn't, it's false. This is going to make things really useful and easy for us later. So what we will do is, okay. So we're going to abstract this in a minute. We won't prematurely optimize. So we will, we'll do this. So we'll say, actually, no, we will. We're going to prematurely optimize because we need to. So we will say toggle accordion. And we are going to take most of this and we're going to pop it in here. This part, we're not. We're going to keep here. So we're going to say check if, we'll go should accordion be hidden or expanded. And then we'll get rid of this. And we're going to say this toggle accordion. We're going to pass in the button and is hidden as arguments. So toggle the accordion. And on here, we will accept the button and is hidden as arguments. Toggle the accordion pane. So button is going to be an element. And then we will say the button, the accordion trigger is probably the best way to describe that. And then should the content be hidden? Or no, let's say if true, the content should be hidden. So just as a starting situation here, let's make sure that all works. Okay, so the reason I'm doing this is If this exclusive, we're then going to loop through all of our headings and repeat this process, but with is hidden forced to true. So if this exclusive for const heading of this headings, so if exclusive, close all other open accordions. So if const heading of this heading, we are going to say this toggle accordion. So we need to get the button. Okay, so we'll say const button equals heading query selector. We're not going to use the headings for this. We're going to do this slightly differently. Okay, so if this is exclusive, const, we'll say triggers equals this query selector all, and then we're going to look for accordion trigger aria expanded equals true. And then for const trigger of triggers, there we go, we will pass in the trigger and give it a forced value of true. One other thing about this, so if we run this after we've already shown our button, then we hide the button we just opened. So we'll take this and we'll move it earlier. So let's bring it right here. We'll hide all of them. And then we will actually, no, we need to get the hidden state of our button first. So here we go. So if this is exclusive and well, you know, there's a way we could do this differently. So yeah, we'll keep it where it is. We'll do this. So for each one, we'll say if trigger, there's a bunch of different ways to do this. I'm probably making this harder on myself. If trigger equals button, continue. So if it's the thing we just toggled, ignore it. Otherwise, keep going. All right, so jumping back over. These are not exclusive. They behave the way I would hope. So this one is exclusive. Toggling does the normal thing. If I open the other one, the first one closes. This is, by the way, it's considered an anti-pattern. So you really, for accessibility reasons, sometimes people like to have multiple things open to compare. Closing something based on the action of something else can sometimes be jarring. So not necessarily like always a recommended pattern. But you can see here now, even keyboard events control the behavior. And we have a situation where you can have different components. You don't have to instantiate them in different ways, and they all do what you would hope. Let me see, how did I actually handle this in the original? So we've got exclusive. So if it's not exclusive, I'm bailing. Otherwise, I'm grabbing the expanded ones. Oh, I'm applying the trigger to the heading here, not the button. That's interesting. Okay. Let's see, for let accordion of open accordions. So I'm basically doing the same thing. I'm getting all the open ones and looping through and hiding them, except I didn't abstract it here. I do like this better though. So let's update. That's a nicer way. The early return pattern. So we will say if not this exclusive, return. It just prevents you from nesting deeper than you need to. So now we sit a layer further back, and it's just a little bit easier to read, in my opinion. Cool. And let's also give this a set up the DOM on initial load, just so that we know what everything does. It should be obvious just from reading it, but just in case. I like to have some extra documentation in there. It's nice. Cool. Yeah, so we've got an accordion group. I'm going to make sure all the show notes or all the source code for this end up in the description below. I recently decided to stop selling expensive courses that most folks can only afford with a corporate training budget and focus on creating more excellent free content, including YouTube videos like this one. A recurring Go Make Things membership helps me create more videos like this and also gets you some cool perks like access to my private Discord community and my personal collection of courses, guides, and code snippets. There are a range of membership levels available, and they all get the same stuff. Even $3 a month helps keep this channel going. You can join or learn more at gomakethings.com/join. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, share it with friends because that helps YouTube know that people like it and gets in front of more people, lets me know you like it so I can make more videos like this. And of course, if you had any questions about anything I did, ask them down in the comments below. If there's something you'd like to see me make a video about in the future, please let me know down in the comments and I'll put it on my list of videos to make because I love coming up with my own ideas, but I love it even more when people suggest things and I can build stuff that people want to see. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers.